It feels good to be a gangsta who can jump to conclusions, but is that just as true in 2023 as it was in 1999? Let's find out why we've yet to see an Office Space 2. Unlike so many other sequels that never happened, the lack of an Office Space 2 isn't due to just one particular reason. Office Space didn't exactly light up the box office when it hit theaters in February 1999, but that's only a small part of the picture, as it eventually became a cult classic when it was released on DVD. So it could have gotten a sequel on the strength of its home viewing popularity, but it wasn't so simple at that point. By the early 2000s, Jennifer Aniston was a bankable movie star, so it would have made it difficult to reunite the entire cast. But the bigger problem was that Office Space writer-director Mike Judge was ambivalent about the entire idea of making a follow-up film. In 2009, he was talking with the Times-Union to promote his new movie Extract when the topic of a potential Office Space sequel came up. When he was asked if he would consider directing it, he responded, "I don't think so. Maybe there was a time I would have thought about it, but there have been really great TV shows, the British The Office and the American version." Essentially, Judge realized that he'd have nothing new to say about office-based workplaces, and he's continued to insist that he's not interested. As he told Rolling Stone in 2011, "I just can't see it. There's been so many good shows like The British Office and The American Office, so much good cubicle stuff. Also, it's been too long. I don't know." Nevertheless, a small but devoted Office Space fanbase has continued to express its love for the film with an enduring passion that's unusual for a mid-budget comedy. While fans have been crying out for a sequel to Office Space for a couple of decades, the cast members seem less enthused. For example, Gary Cole, who played condescending boss Bill Lumbergh, was asked during a 2017 interview on Larry King Live if there could ever be a second movie, to which he replied,
"I think that would have to do with Mike, and I don't think Mike is interested in that, so..."
And Cole is not alone. Ron Livingston, who played lead character Peter Gibbons, feels pretty much the same way. During a 2018 appearance on Talk Stoop, he was promoting his TV shows Loudermilk and A Million Little Things, but of course the topic of an Office Space sequel also came up once.
Is there ever going to be a sequel?
Well, I don't think so.
According to Livingston, there are two main reasons working against a follow-up. As he explained, "I think if there were going to be a sequel, it would have happened by now. And the second reason is Mike Judge has just never been the person to do something because it would be lucrative to do it. It always ends up being lucrative, but it seems to always start out with some out-of-left-field crazy genius idea that Mike has." As far as Livingston can tell, Judge simply doesn't have the creative inspiration to write a sequel.
I think Mike probably feels like we did that. We already explored that. Well, I don't have anything more to say about that.
So the Office Space actors have speculated about their writer-director's lack of enthusiasm for a new movie, but what does Mike Judge himself have to say? Quite a bit, actually, and it may surprise some fans to hear that at one point he actually was ready to work on a follow-up. As he explained to Mass Live in 2009, "At one point a while back, I considered doing a sequel to Office Space, but I wouldn't do one now." Once again, Judge cited the success of certain iconic workplace TV comedies that explored all the same themes as his movie, and how that dampened his enthusiasm for revisiting the world of office drones. He also noted, "I kind of feel like I wouldn't want to go back to it at this point." And that's not the only reason that Judge is reluctant to work on a follow-up. As he revealed to The Wrap in 2015, he had a bad experience with executives at Fox while working on a TV pilot. Considering all those factors, the window of opportunity has pretty much closed. Also not helping was Gary Cole reprising the role of Lumbergh for a hip chat comedy short. According to Judge, it was not very well done, and the final nail in the coffin for the franchise. If you're a loyal fan of Mike Judge, you might have already realized that while there hasn't been any official Office Space sequel, there has been a sort of spiritual follow-up. It may not continue the stories of Peter, Michael Bolton, and Samir, but 2009's Extract is a similar black comedy about a man and his work. It stars Jason Bateman as Joel Reynolds, the owner of a company that makes flavor extracts. He's having all kinds of problems, both at work and at home, where he's trapped in an unhappy marriage. Extract may offer a different perspective than Office Space, but it shares certain sensibilities and is often considered a companion piece. After all, both films were written and directed by Mike Judge, and both flopped at the box office. And while it hasn't developed into as big of a cult hit as Office Space, it's still considered by some fans as the next best thing to a sequel. According to Judge, it may not appeal to the same crowd of bored office workers, but it definitely takes its aim at a portion of the frustrated working crowd. As he explained to the Florida Times-Union in 2009, "There's probably more people in cubicles than owning extract factories, but I think anybody who has people who work for them or who are buying a house, I hope it will catch that older group of people."
I mean, did you like invent Extract or something?
Extract isn't the only 21st century Mike Judge project that's been hailed as a spiritual Office Space sequel. If you've been following his career closely, it's clear that there are certain themes about the plight of the American worker that he keeps returning to. So it's hardly a surprise that his HBO sitcom Silicon Valley is considered by many to be the true follow-up to the 1999 film. Office Space captured the drudgery of 90s office life, but that's a version of employment that almost doesn't exist anymore with the way that working culture has changed. It's that evolution that Silicon Valley highlights, and because it was created by Mike Judge, it often feels like the truest extension of the movie that fans have loved for decades. Silicon Valley aired for 6 seasons from 2014 to 2019. The story follows a group of jaded employees at a Northern California tech startup. Praised by critics for its offbeat characters and its knack for poking fun at technology and corporate investor culture, the series also mines the humdrum life of office stooges for some top-notch comedy. Like Office Space, Silicon Valley offers an honest look at the business world, and it may indeed be the closest thing that fans will ever get to a sequel. It's been more than 20 years since Office Space arrived in theaters, and it may be a longer wait still, even if Mike Judge ever does decide to make an actual sequel. But that doesn't mean that fans haven't gotten a taste of what a second film would potentially look like. Multiple cast members actually got back together for a mini-sequel of sorts, in the form of a series of Walmart commercials in 2022 to celebrate Black Friday. Reprising their roles were Gary Cole as Bill Lumberg, Ajay Naidu as uptight programmer Samir, Kenna McEnroe as receptionist Nina, Diedrich Bader as country boy neighbor Lawrence, and Jennifer Emerson as the temp who thinks everyone has a case of the Mondays. Even Michael Bolton got in on the fun. Not the Michael Bolton played by David Herman, but the Grammy-winning singer of the same name who played himself as a staffer at the new Initech.
Yeah, they brought me in to improve morale.
The commercials were full of fun gags that recalled some of the best moments from the film, but this reunion wasn't exactly fully embraced. Some fans pointed out that by partnering with a mega corporation like Walmart, the ads were completely going against the entire message of the movie. Plus, without Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston, or Stephen Root returning, they didn't quite fully capture the vibe of the movie. Though for some viewers, it may have been close enough to remind us of why they loved Office Space so much in the first place. We've heard from the cast and crew of Office Space over the years about the challenges of actually making a sequel happen. These issues include coming up with a good idea, the practical difficulties of getting the cast back together, and convincing Mike Judge that it's a worthy endeavor. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, though, and now may actually be the best time for everyone involved. Judge has recently returned to 2 of his former franchises, as Beavis and Butthead debuted new episodes on Paramount Plus beginning in 2022, and Hulu announced in 2023 that it was reviving King of the Hill. So clearly he can be convinced to return to an old idea under the right circumstances. And the corporate world of Office Space isn't entirely dead, and the changes in that culture in the past couple of decades could serve as fruitful inspiration for a new story. Open office layouts, video conferencing, and remote work are just some of the topics that could potentially be lampooned in a sequel. And with the rise of streamers, there's more opportunity than ever for a mid-budget office comedy to have a sequel. In short, an Office Space follow-up might be a tough sell for some involved, but there's little doubt that it could work out if the original cast and crew get back together and find the right inspiration.